Welcome back to Women's Wealth, The Middle Way, the show that answers your questions about work, money, and family. My name is Susan McGlory Michael, and I am the CEO and founder of Glen Eagle, a wealth management firm in New Jersey.
My name's Caroline Fernandez, and I'm the COO of Glen Eagle, and I'm thrilled to have Drew Ann Long joining us today. She's the inventor of Caroline's Cart. What began with making shopping accessible for special needs families has evolved into a powerful mission to support their educational journey. I just want to welcome you, Drew Ann.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Maybe we could just start with you sharing a little bit to our listeners about your journey and what led you to even invent Caroline's Cart.
Sure. So I'm a mom of three. Caroline is my middle child, and she was born with a genetic condition called Rett syndrome. Left the hospital, had no idea, thought she was perfectly healthy. That's what the doctors told me.
Wow.
And had absolutely no idea. Rett syndrome doesn't rear its ugly head till they're about one. Devastating news, of course, but life goes on, and here I was, a mom of three. I had a husband that traveled for a living, and I had no family nearby. So what was I doing? Constantly loading kids up and going to the store, going to the grocery store. And I
As
would
a
put
mom
Caroline
of three,
in the cart.
I know that game a lot.
Yes, for sure. I mean, kids do like to eat, right? Caroline's never walked, doesn't talk, never will. So I would just carry her in for as long as I could and put her in the traditional carts. We all know what those look like. Well, when I could no longer shove her in that, lay her in the basket, all the things, or use the fun carts that they provide, I literally went up to my Publix store manager and said, hey, you see me in here all the time. My daughter is obviously severely disabled. I see tons of carts. I see electric scooters and fun carts and the fire trucks and all the things, but is there a special needs shopping cart? And he said, I'm sure there is. I'll look into it and we'll circle back. So that got me thinking. I went home and, of course, went straight to the internet, and I guess he did the same. I followed back with him, and he's like, I don't think there is one. So that led me to keep looking, and I'm like, wait a second. How is that possible? There are carts there's a variety of shopping carts out there. There's way more than the traditional carts. And lo and behold, there was not. And I thought, wow, if I needed, others needed, of course, what do people do? So I really was at a crossroads with her where I had to hire a babysitter to feed my family. I had to wait for my husband to come home in the evenings when he even was home. I had to plan it for the weekends. I mean, it was just getting to the point of, well, wait a minute. There's a huge need here. There's a market for this. Around 2009, I drew it on a napkin. It's not rocket science. It wasn't electrical. It was just modifications. I made basic, accessible modifications to a traditional cart. So it sounds so easy, and it was absolutely so hard, but that's the baseline of the story. Just started out of a need for my own daughter.
Yeah, and talking as it sounded so easy, but was very hard. I know you early on faced actually a lot of rejection from manufacturers. How did you
nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to do it. Yeah.
So you have this drawn on a napkin. How did you get this to come to reality? Like what steps were you able to?
It literally took to get from a napkin to a rendering. I learned that word a long time ago, about 15 years ago. I know. I mean, I knew nothing. So it went from a drawing to a rendering. That took about a year. I have a college degree in business. I was always on the business side of things. I worked in a private boarding school. I was the director of finance before I realized I had to quit to be home with my disabled daughter. So this was a world I knew nothing about. So when you pick up the phone and you're like, hi, I've got this great idea of this shopping. Nobody listens to you. It was ridiculous. I mean, it's just, I look back and I cringe what I went through and how I tried to do it. I mean, I do. I look at emails and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But I mean, I was just learning as I went. So I finally found a company. I found nobody in Alabama that could help me. I found a company in Indianapolis, Indiana. They were an engineering firm. They built prototypes, nothing in the shopping cart world. They were actually more kind of electrical, but they took an interest in it. And they were like, hey, we don't do this, but we're going to take this on. So they gave me some professional looking drawings. I took the drawings and I'm like, okay, well, I need a prototype. They built me a prototype. So now we're probably 3 years into it and $40,000. My first prototype that I had posted on my Facebook page, it was $27,000. And that was literally only 4 pictures in my dining room. Got the prototype, started taking pictures, went to social media and was like, hey, look, what do y'all think? Just to get feedback from the special needs families. And the feedback was tremendous. Everyone wanted to know what store had it. And I'm like, no stores have it. This is my dining room. Crazy. So I then loaded up the cart and I went to manufacturers to show them what needed to be. And no one was interested. They all told me no. Until I lived in the world of disability, was it on the forefront of anything I thought of or anything I did? Of course not. Why would it be? That's not the world I live in.
Yeah, and if it's not a pain point for the person at the time, right?
That's right. Had the people I met with initially probably had a special needs child, they might have had interest. But I was coming from a viewpoint of, who is this lady? We don't live in that world. What is she talking about? Have a nice day. I had built up quite a demand on Facebook of other special needs families all over the world. Facebook has no borders, all over the world, wanting to know where they could shop that had this cart. And I'm like, okay, lesson learned. I went to social media way too soon. I never thought that manufacturers would tell me no. I just never dreamt about it. I guess I just didn't think it through. So I was on the hunt for a manufacturer. I found one in Georgia. Had never made a shopping cart in his life, but he said, I think I can do it. And he made me 100 carts, and none of the big stores would buy them. Walmart said no. Target said no. Sam's said no. I mean, you name it. They all said no. They said, we don't buy from any shopping cart manufacturer other than Vonzel in North Carolina. Well, Wow. They were like, go to Vonzel. I did, and they told me no. I didn't want to tell anyone that, though. So I'm like, okay, I've got 100 carts, and no one's going to buy them. And I asked them why, and they're like, I didn't have the safety protocols that they wanted. They just weren't going to buy from a small-town mom, from a small-town manufacturer. They just weren't going to do it. So what I did was, I'm like, okay, I'll have to not go to the big retailers. I'll have to go to the smaller chains, to the locally owned. And that's what I did. And here I am in Alabama, could still find no one to buy it. And I found a store called Sunset Foods in Chicago, locally owned. He had 5 small stores. He bought the very first Caroline's cart. And that's how I got my first cart in my first
Wow.
year.
That's amazing. Such a story of persistence. And I think a lot of anyone who's run their own business has failed many times, but a long road and definitely paid off.
Well, by that time, from the napkin to the first cart in Sunset Foods, that was an easy 4 years. Wow. And I was probably, well, I'll tell you this. I won't say how much, but we had run out of savings 6 months into it. Just the mold. I had to buy one mold. It's called injection molding to make one prototype. The mold alone was $80,000. Wow. So that mold made one seat, and that mold went in the garbage can. Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, it's just mind-boggling what I did. I had gotten down a path. We were so financially buried in this that Caroline's cart had to succeed, or we were 100% bankrupt. We had to drain our retirement, and that was never the plan at the beginning. My husband's, we've got X in savings, and that's all we got. And of course I knew that. I never dreamt that we would have to take our retirement money, because if I had known that, I wouldn't have done it. I mean, it was too risky. I didn't work. That's all we had. You know, hello, we have to retire. I need a home. My children need a home. So it was a very scary time. It was 7 years, I will tell you this. It was 7 years before I saw $1 come in for the cart. And then I had a massive debt to pay back. Massive debt. After we ran out of retirement money, I had to get a loan. No one would give me a loan. I found an angel investor who gave me a loan, had to pay him back. So I never dreamt the kind of money that it took to bring a product to market. And people are always like,
such an important product too, that so many people are benefiting from.
And here's what makes me different. Here's what put me out on an island. I created a product that the consumer wanted, but the consumer couldn't buy it. I had to bypass the consumer and go to the retailer. And did the retailer buy and mark up and sell Caroline's cart? No, it was right off their bottom line. Most people that are inventors or innovators, they do something and they sell it to the consumer. That wasn't me. I had to sell to the retailer.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Right. The consumers wanted it, and people don't realize that the special needs population, we're the world's largest minority group. So here I've got a product that has never existed, that it will change lives, and I say that because I hear that daily, that will make shopping possible for millions of families in the U.S. and beyond, and they couldn't buy it. I had to convince the retailer that they needed this, that their stores weren't accessible, that they had to provide equal access for all their customers. If you're going to provide a fun cart with a race car attached, which I loved, my kids loved, not knocking those at all. Because of those, Caroline's cart had a shot. I'm like, if you're going to provide for the able-bodied, what about the disabled? What about those that cannot shop in here? It was a much longer road than the typical entrepreneur that went into product development, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and especially when you're thinking that it's going to be not that, a simple question. Do you have one of these cars?
Right.
Sure
it was I can never say the word. When you're naive, it was my naivety that got this off the ground. Had I seen the bigger picture, I would have crawled under my bed and been like, I'm not doing that. I'm so glad that I did, but wow, it was tough. It was really tough. And if you follow the cart, here we are in every Walmart in the U.S. now. Crazy.
That's amazing. And congratulations.
Thank you.
So I know it started as just shopping accessible, but you've expanded, correct, into education with Caroline's Cause. And I'm just interested to hear kind of what inspired you to keep expanding after that.
Well, let me say this too. Yes, Vonsel did tell me no, but eventually after I did seed the market with those 100 carts strategically throughout the U.S. to build the demand, finally retailers started calling Vonsel, like Walmart and Target, saying, hey, we've got so many parents requesting Caroline's cart. If you'll make it, we will buy it. So then there was a happy ending. Vonsel did call me back 2 years after I left and said, okay, come up here. Now we're interested. So Vonsel is the manufacturer. It was a happy ending. I just was not big enough at the time, and I had to prove myself. And finally, they did call me and say, okay, come on back. Let's talk. And we are now interested.
That's great.
So I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you shared that. And that's so inspirational.
But how did I get into education?
Exactly.
So when my oldest daughter graduated high school in 2016, and she was going to college, and we were searching for all the scholarships, as most families do. And I thought, gosh, there's so many scholarships out there, a variety of scholarships. Maybe there's one if you have a special needs sibling. So we searched, and nothing. We could find nothing. So crazy enough, the light bulb went over my head, and I'm like, wait a minute. That's another unmet need. Wow. Because I have typical and a disabled child. I live in both worlds. And I've watched my children sacrifice growing up having a disabled sibling. We can't just pick up and go here, go there. We might be at a restaurant or a movie and Caroline has a seizure and we have to leave. I've missed so many things with my kids growing up because I was in the hospital with Caroline, who was just critically ill. She is medically fragile in every way. Right. And they never complained about it because guess what? That's all they knew. That's all they know. But Caroline's Cause, I thought, wow, David, we could develop a scholarship, and this is a great way for us to give back to the same community that helped build the demand to get Caroline's Cart off the ground. So Caroline's Cause was born in 2017. My husband had a massive heart attack in 2018. He lived, praise God. It had a rough start, but that's why everybody's been out since 2017. Well, it had to go in the drawer for a year. So what it does is we grant a one-time $5,000 scholarship to a family that's like mine, that has special needs and a typical child. And we want to reward that child. We want to say, hey, we see you. We know that you have sacrificed over the years, and we want to reward you with a college scholarship. We wanted to make it $5,000 because we wanted it to move the needle. I've got 2 kids. I've got one out of college and one in college. No amount is too small, but we really wanted it to be as much as we could give to a family. And I'll tell you what, we have probably I think we've awarded, oh my goodness, maybe 12 now. We can never fund all that apply. So we're working really hard in 2025 to grow Caroline's cause and continue to give back as much as we can.
Wow, that's amazing. And thank you so much for doing that. I know so many families are benefiting from that, and that's such an inspiration that, again, you have such busy life and you're thinking of even the community that helped you so much and giving back so much. So that's just amazing to hear. And I know you are busy, so I don't want to keep you too long on this podcast, but just wanted to finish out with one more question. What advice you would give to a listener who might be on and sees a need in their community like you did and wants to create change? Maybe just one piece of advice or 2 from you that you would like to share.
Well, it's incredibly rewarding. Anytime you have the opportunity to help others, to make a difference, to see something that isn't right and to try to right a wrong, it is very rewarding. That doesn't mean it won't come at a cost. It won't be hard, but it will be worth it. So my advice is to go for it. You will make 1,000 mistakes, just like I made 1,000 mistakes. I mean, I laugh and say I can tell you 1,000 ways how not to bring a shopping cart to market, but I finally figured out the one way how to bring a shopping cart to market. So be prepared for failure. Don't let that end your journey of change to make a difference, because you will look back and you will say, wow, it was worth it. I hear from parents every day from all over the world telling me, so glad that we have Caroline's Cart. We can now have outings as a family. So that would be my advice.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. You're such an inspiration, and I know this has not been an easy journey, as you made clear, but was so needed and is still needed by all the families and listeners I know who just appreciate you putting in all that hard work and bringing something to light like Caroline's Cart.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to continue to spread awareness, because that's what I do every single day. So I love to be on podcasts and go to events and speak and all the things, because that's how we make the change. We have to be visible to it.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Women's Wealth, The Middle Way. Make sure to subscribe to us and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast app. Join us for new episodes every other Wednesday. See you in 2 weeks.